Hi there, BookTube.
Hello.
Time for a Tag for Tag Tuesday.
Yeah. I feel like it's been long enough since I've been on this channel, so I thought I'd do another guest spot.
Because, we've had requests for the beard.
Yeah, Sean mentioned the fact that I appear in that video he did with Ros, so I was like, yeah, I do videos with Ros.
That's it. So, it's Ros and Alf, and our tag is the reading tastes tag. Because our reading tastes are not the same, so it'll be fun to talk about with each other. And this tag was created by Sophia's Thoughts, and I saw it on Maybury Book Club, but it's kind of definitely doing the rounds at the moment.
And you weren't actually tagged in it, you just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, I just fancied it.
Yes,
yeah,
fair enough.
Maybe someone's tagged me and I haven't noticed. No one's tagged me in anything for ages. Hey, come on, people, give me some tags. I was complaining about being behind with them, and now now look what's happened. Okay, so shall I? Oh, and this is the new cat.
She's good, except when she decides to attack you.
Yeah, and this is her first video appearance.
Yeah.
Shall I kick off?
You kick off then.
Oh, yeah. Kick off. So this is all about reading tastes. And first question is, what is your favourite genre? Well, what's your favourite genre?
Speculative fiction, science fiction, and fantasy, especially classic high fantasy.
Classic high fantasy. For a kind of slight fantasy ignoramus, not that I haven't read some, just remind me, what is classic high fantasy? So
I would say that with sort of fantasy, you've got two axes between high and low fantasy, and people will think different things on those scales. Basically, you've got how fantastical the world is. Yeah. So going from something like Harry Potter or Rose of London, where it's magical events but in the real world,
or a version of the real world. Through
like kind of your portal-y fantasies like Narnia, where you've got the real world and then something that goes through to a separate fantastic world, over to stuff like your Malazans, your Wheel of Times, or your Lord of the Rings, which are, even if there's some suggestion that it might be a transformed version of the real world, are essentially a fully constructed fantasy setting.
Yes.
So you've got kind of that axis, and again, the further you are along it, the more high fantasy you are. Yeah. And I also think there's an aspect of the motivations of the characters that makes something high or low fantasy. Like, I think that if characters are strongly motivated by ideology, the fate of the world, like sort of grand scale things, that makes something higher fantasy. Whereas if they're motivated by personal conflicts, economic desires, like direct needs and stuff, that becomes lower fantasy. So, like, you don't ever find out about Aragon's tax policy for New Gondor because it's an intrinsically high fantasy setting. Whereas that's...
people don't have to worry about how they make their living in it. And I'm with you. Yeah. Fascinating.
What about you?
Mine. Well, I'm a bit of a what's the word for people that eat? Not vegetarian, not. I'm an omnivore. I'm a bit of an omnivore. That's the word I was looking for.
You very much are.
But essentially, I suppose my central preference is fiction, because reading for me is about. It's my other life. I have my normal life, my other life, and fiction is the most effective.
I think that there's a sort of worthiness characteristic which isn't necessarily genre related, but that I think you have a strong preference for. Like,
what does that mean?
I feel like you want to feel like you're earning points from the book you're reading on some axis.
Oh, what? So it's going to be like either a bit political or a bit literary, challenging. But I can enjoy a bit of junk.
I think you can enjoy a bit of junk, but I think that if you were talking about what your favourite genre is, that starts to sneak in.
Oh, something I can show off about is my favourite genre. Oh dear, he may be right. Okay, question 2. What is the most difficult genre for you to read?
So, like, obviously I don't read a lot outside of my wheelhouse, but I think thinking about stuff that I actively wouldn't want or wouldn't enjoy reading, it's that sort of trauma porn, suffering memoir stuff. It's like, I'm sad and here's how I was sad, and I'm going to tease you with just the suggestion that things will get better enough, but also it's just going to be miserable the whole time because you're going to have to enjoy me suffering. It's like... Go away.
Yes. Yeah, I'm totally with you on that one. My kind of bête noire of genres is the self-help book.
Sure.
All levels, like the business, so many habits of a successful business person through to, you know, I don't know, how to lose weight and I don't know, be beautiful. All of those, hate all of those. But I think this is a weirdly worded question, because I also try to think what is the most difficult, as in I find most difficult to read.
Like really heavy textbooks, like stuff that's been written to be a source of information rather than a thing to read. I get like
yeah. Well, the thing I was going to say was kind of like relatively hard science books, or even some popular science. Like, it's something that I want to read and I like reading, but I realise my gaps in my education become clear when I'm reading some things, and you know, so it's more. It might be interesting, but I find it more difficult.
It's stuff where you don't have the relevant prior expertise to understand it.
Yeah. But that's all right, because then I ask you.
Let's quickly Google it
and give me a very reasonable explanation. So, question 3 is an odd one too. Do you want to your turn to
What
read
is your preferred age range?
Yeah, what the hell does that
mean?
So
I guess this is like kind of children, young adult sort of style distinction.
Oh, and that thing that people talk about, middle grade literature.
There are people that only read young adult literature.
Yeah,
and I don't think either of us are those people.
No.
Like, good for you if you're reading.
Yeah,
great.
If that is what
some young adult stuff is fine. Like, there's this thing where like I've kind of gotten a bit of a habit of reading books that fit in with like shows that I've watched or similar, and most of those are going to be done in that young adult, because that's kind of almost the marketing label for that style of tie-in.
Yeah, it's kind of, I guess, if you want to write that sort of thing, it's how you get it published, isn't it?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
And there's also there's like, particularly within fantasy, there's this thing where a lot of the female authors will be writing young adult or
and yes, I'm not sneering at young adult books. I think there's some really brilliant things being written. I mean, like, I think it's great that that's a whole market now.
Yes.
That it wasn't when I was that age, as it were. You had to jump from. I mean, some things did in retrospect. You realise that's
what they were doing, but there was children's books and adults books, and that was it.
Yeah.
And that kind of setting that middle space up makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, but actually I want adult books, and I was thinking the other way of thinking about the preferred age range is that I think I actually quite like books by older authors with older protagonists now. You know, like
is it because you want to be able to project onto the protagonist or the author?
Not necessarily.
Empathy being the core driving factor in the book, and it needs to be like you.
Oh, well, that kind of links to the next question, because the next question is, are you a character-driven or a plot-driven reader?
This is setting-driven reader erasure, and I will not stand for it.
That's really, really funny you should say that, because my answer to that question was no. No, I am not. I'm not a character-driven or a plot-driven.
So, really? I feel like you need all of them for it to be good. Like, obviously, like...
Ooh, well, yeah.
Well, not good, but, like...
Yes.
Optimal enjoyment, like, requires, for me, both, like... a discovery aspect that is either like setting related, whether in the fantasy sense or in the this is showing me something about the world or the characters that I wouldn't be familiar with from my own perspective.
Yeah.
You need characters because they have to do things and feel things, and because we're humans and we care about people, and it's a cheap trick to make you like things.
Yes.
but that's fine.
Yeah.
And you need plot, because if nothing happens, like what's the point? You need the forward progress to keep the pages turning.
Okay, all right, but one of my favourite books that I've read recently was the plot was woman goes into her maid's now empty room, sees a cockroach, squishes the cockroach, ends up licking some of the substance exuded from the cockroach, has a bit of epiphany. Now, you see, I can't say I'm a plot-driven reader. That was a Clarity Spider. I think...
presumably the plot there is just the kind of internal structured logic of her character epiphany, and that is still a structured progress thing. Like, even if it's being portrayed as character growth, it's still got that.
But I think that if I was going to, like you say, setting, for me, it's ideas and language.
Sure.
And if the ideas and language are not there, like, then the characters and plot won't be enough to sustain my interest.
Yeah, I think that that's fair. I think I don't necessarily care as much. Like, I'll appreciate nice language, but I'm a bit dyslexic and I read very quickly, so I don't care as much as other people. Like.
Which doesn't say you can't.
Yeah.
I mean, say you can't appreciate it when you do. Which kind of brings us on to the next couple of questions. This is a very good tag. Well done, Sophia. Because the next question is: do you have a preferred perspective?
Third person limited.
Third person limited, as opposed to third person omniscient.
Yes.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, it's the most comfortable, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like, obviously that is the I'd like butter on my white bread with my vanilla ice cream of preferred perspectives, but it works. It's good.
I think it can't go as wrong.
Yes.
As the others.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a whole kind of, I think, like first person has become much more common lately.
I like first person, but it's like you have to like toggle into first person, like.
Yeah.
Like with third limited, you're just reading it straight away. With first person, like you have to spend a bit of time and mental effort locking that eye into the perspective of the character rather than your own perspective, and Yeah.
But what I like about first person is it is the way you get the unreliable narrator, which is something I really like.
But I think you can do that fine in third person limited.
Wow. You can, but first person really kind of like it leaves you more sort of uncertain, doesn't it? And I was trying to think of what annoys me is when they get it, the writer goes for first person, but then makes them omniscient when they shouldn't be.
Yes.
That's complete no for me.
You can get away with that, particularly the first person flashback. Whereas if this is written in first person from this person doing like a memoir, and then they can have information that they didn't know at the time but had found out since and include it in a way so that it feels earned that you can find that out then when it's plot relevant rather than when the character finds it out.
Yes.
Without it making their perspective not make sense.
Yes. I thought of one successful omniscient first person narrative though that we've both read.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was The Book Thief.
Yeah.
And that was because the narrator is death.
Yes.
So it's make your narrator death, and if you sort it.
I think
but the interesting one is second person, and that is hard to pull off.
Yeah, the second person bits in fifth season, Broken Sky trilogy.
Yes.
Like I really enjoyed, but they are very like in your face.
And it works in fifth season. That's N.K. Jemisin's kind of science fiction-y fantasy.
It's post-apocalyptic fantasy.
Get your genre right, Ros.
Again, you can see that it's got very low fantasy motivations despite having a very high fantasy sort of setting. So it's interestingly in that kind of lower grey area.
Yeah. But, so bits of third person in a book can work really, really well.
Second.
Sorry, did I say third? Second. Second in an otherwise sort of, But sustaining it through a whole book is challenging. Yeah. I think I thought of one sprung to mind, which you won't have read, which really worked for me, was How to Get Filthy Rich and Rising Asia by Mohsin Hamid, and it's written kind of like in the sort of the style of a business self-help book, but it's actually a kind of satirical novel, and it really that one hit it, but it's risky.
Right. The other thing with third person limited, there's a whole question of how quickly do you take viewpoint shifts, which is kind of like, again, that's kind of still in the perspective question.
I'm a big fan of a multi perspective.
Multi-perspective. But do you think, is that in a chapter, in a paragraph? Obviously, changing perspective in like a sentence or a paragraph is going to be very weird, but changing paragraph to paragraph, or does it need more? Yeah. Do you want some sort of marking in the book to make it clear that's what's happening?
Yeah, no, I don't mind. I mean, I like a bit of a challenge.
Yes.
And something that makes me slow down, because like you, I read very fast, and then some books you realise, oh, blimey, I've lost it because I've been reading too fast, and it's almost quite enjoyable. Next one then. Yeah. We move on to tense.
So I don't know the name of the tense, but it's the one that's like the past tense, but it's actually the present tense.
Oh, like, is that the Pluperfect?
It's really standard, and most books are done in it where they're using the past form of verbs, but it's happening in a sort of straight time order.
Yeah.
Because, like, obviously saying, like saying they were calling their friend rather than they called their friend. They were calling their friend is like feels too immediate.
Yes.
Whereas they called their friend is how I would feel that sentence would be written in a story.
Yes. Also, that you're really refining it if you're going to different versions of past. But you're right. That's the most. Again, it's kind of like the most comfortable.
Yeah.
Present tense is I think it's quite popular in young adult novels.
Could be.
I believe. I think The Hunger Games is in the present tense.
Sure.
Have you read that?
I haven't read that. It's one of those things that's on the big long list of fantasy books that I probably should read, but then I haven't. Yeah.
Yeah. Then you could talk to Tilly about it because she's a bit of The Hunger Games sort of. Yeah.
Yeah, but
fan's the wrong word, but she enjoyed that. But the book that you and I have both read, series that you and I have both read recently that is in the present tense.
Yeah.
That I'm wondering you're going to read.
Oh yes, Wolf Hall.
Hilary Mantel, Wolf Hall.
Yeah.
Now,
yes, and again, the first that book's quite stylized in other ways, and it being in the actual present tense does create that sort of immediacy which is it is good, and it is like.
And but again, it's that if you're going to do it, only do it if you can absolutely nail it.
Yeah.
Which she does for me. Yeah. So, but otherwise, maybe you see, stick with the past. Next question. Oh, you can ask me this one.
All right. Which one are we doing?
Do you?
Do you like series or standalone books best?
Okay, so I think I'm a standalone book person. Preferably, I know you're not. I don't want to be kind of to have to buy into a whole series in order to get the whole story. I want so I can go for a sequel, with a good sequel.
Well, duology.
Oh no! Don't call it duology. That's like a swear word. It doesn't exist.
Duet.
just as a book with a sequel, please, or a two-part novel, or
yeah.
Duology, my arse.
If I'm going to put the effort in to reading this book and getting this author style and learning these characters and this setting and getting into these plot hooks, I want enough of it to pay off. So 3-book minimum, I think.
Okay. Well, fair enough.
I do enjoy a standalone book, but you can just the word count of a big series, you can just do more. And obviously some people don't successfully do more with it, but when they do, that additional payoff and value just is makes it so much better for me.
Yes, yeah.
Also, it means that I can spend lots of time in that setting despite reading really quickly.
Yeah. Also, I think there's kind of a slight safety thing, isn't it? It's I've found an author that works for me and that I'm enjoying, so that's great if there's quite a bit of it.
Yes, because then I can just roll and roll and roll.
So it's a bit like me thinking wanting to read everything by Jane Austen, and it doesn't have to be a series. It's I know I'm in good territory, so I do understand that. The exception for me, I'd say, about where I do like a series is crime fiction. Sure. Where you come back to the same detective and that's a comfort thing.
It's kind of
definitely. Yeah. Oh, next question.
I think there's with those crime books, it's not like there's a lot of continuity buy-in that you're having to hold on to. They all stand alone very comfortably. Yes. It's just you get a little bit of extra bonus.
Yeah. And also because they're I suppose they're primarily plot driven.
Yeah, they're very archetypal characters, aren't
they? But then you do get a bit of sort of character development over the series, perhaps. Which would you rather then, a long or a short book? I think I know your answer. Long. You're a long book man.
I'm a long book man.
You like it, yeah. Whereas I almost it's not that I don't enjoy long books. Some of my favourite ever books have been long books, but I really appreciate it if an author can pack a lot into something short. And I almost think that's more admirable than writing a long book.
Yeah. That's fair.
My sort of least, I don't like a book that's sort of baggy and not being properly edited, and so short and sweet is good. But hey, Which format do you like best?
So nice paperback.
Nice paperback, nice, solid.
Yeah, like
is
it trade paperback or whatever they call it?
Yeah, I think that's
or library edition paperback, whatever. Like
the
good,
slightly bigger with
tougher skin,
Yeah.
like good paper, like slightly bigger so it's comfortable to hold.
Yeah.
Like a cheap paperback feels like it's falling apart and is miserable. A big hardback's too heavy to lug around.
Yes, and you don't want the lines too close together. I mean, now as you know, I now love my e-reader. I adore my e-reader. I find it's been liberating because
I probably should get an e-reader and I probably would love it. It's just that I haven't.
Yeah, but even though I love it, if push comes to shove, actually, a paper is my preferred format. It's more just that the e-reader brings the whole thing of being able to carry around, hundreds of books.
I love books. That's why I put 100 of them in my pocket.
Exactly. That is the answer. Yeah. Question 10 and the last question. What do you?
Well, I guess on 8, neither of us are audiobook people.
Oh yeah.
Neither of us are really big. Like actually, probably after a nice paperback, kind of text on a normal digital screen is the thing that I read most.
Oh yeah.
Which probably means that's like at least a tolerable format for me. But
yeah. No, you're right. Whereas yes, I'd probably if I can't read it on the Kindle, interesting. And I keep trying to get into audiobooks. I think if I did a lot of driving, I would become an audiobook fan, but I don't, so I'm not. And also, I think you and I both have a problem of being a bit inattentive.
Yeah.
So if I listen to an audiobook, then I just, my mind, I lose it. Yeah.
No good.
Yeah, no good. What are you currently reading?
What are we currently? So the 5th edition Dungeon Master's Guide for Dungeons and Dragons I just got from the friendly local game store because they've started letting people in to buy stuff again in a sort of not quite post-pandemic but we need to do business or we'll stop working thing. And I've recently switched my main weekly campaign from 3.5 to 5th, so I felt like buying the book and learning how to run 5th would be good. I've been reading lots.
That will be like a load of jargon to quite a lot of people, but it's kind of like it's a form of storytelling that you do, isn't it?
Yeah,
these games.
There's tabletop storytelling games.
Yeah.
I normally run games, but I do play in some.
And the guide kind of sets the parameters. Doesn't it
shows you how to structure stuff and the specific because there's like mechanics attached and it's like how to balance things across those mechanics and stuff.
So that's fun, and so
that's what. Then I've been reading lots of Ruby fan fiction. Again, like I could have like a whole diatribe about fan fiction and its weirdness and why I like it and why I don't like it, but that's probably not really suited to this video.
Save that for another video.
Yeah, perhaps.
Yeah, you can explain to me.
Yeah.
So we'll remember that one. Brilliant.
And I just got the second half of the Kyoshi duology arrived in the mail, so I'm going to probably give that a read this week.
Brilliant. And I'm currently reading Little Eyes by Samantha Schweblin, and that's a kind of it's a typical Ros read in that it's a woman author in translation, but it's not my normal genre because it's a dystopian novel.
Okay.
So I may pass it. I may push it on to you if it's any good. Brilliant. Tagging. Who are we going to tag? Alf, who are you going to tag? Let me guess.
I'm going to tag Matilda Willow of Tilly's Shelf.
Of Tilly's Shelf, yeah. As ever. Will she do it? We'll see. And
because I appeared in the video that she shot on her wedding day, and people in the comments thought that it was her husband.
Husband, yeah. She's good. So it would be a good opportunity for her to explain that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm going to tag. I found there's another Ros.
Oh.
On BookTube, and her channel is a journey through books. So I'm tagging you, Ros. I'm going to tag Jim Holroyd, who's a new BookTuber, and he's English, but he's BookTubing from Tbilisi in Georgia, where he lives now. And I'm going to tag The Quiet Midden. Now she's a commenter, although she has a channel. But I'm using this as an excuse to point you to her channel where she has some really lovely nature and wildlife films. But it'd be great if she did some book ones too, because her comments show she's definitely a reader. And Nal of Reflective Rambling, who is not putting up a lot of videos at the moment, so this is like an encouragement to her. And finally, Charles Heathcote, who I feel like I've kind of got to know a bit through the Fate of Jane Moore, and I'll put a link to that below because I'm trying to push people towards this brilliant Victober
thing.
Build your own adventure.
Choose your own adventure.
Choose your own adventure thing. And finally, Alan of Big Hard Books and Classics, because I always have to.
Oh, there are 2 finalists there.
Oh, I don't have 2 finalists. Well, but Alan's like, I kind of always have to tag Alan. He likes a tag. Happy week, everybody.